we'll turn it over to you for here. And just a reminder to the audience, you can ask questions of these two ladies in your YouTube live chat box. They will be channeled to our speakers at about the half-hour mark of this 45-minute program. Thanks again for being with us.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you to the World Affairs Council of America for hosting such a powerful week with such important conversations. During our time together, I'm going to have the privilege to have a conversation with my CEO, Chris Leahy, that is streaming live. So welcome to everybody joining in. But also, our conversation is going to be illustrated live for you from a small women-owned business called ImageThink. And this is in hopes to bring the message to life at a time that we feel necessary. So Chris, I'm delighted to be part of the discussion today. And I think since we have a fairly broad audience, I was hoping you could maybe talk a little bit about CDW and what we do.
I would love to do that, Kristen, and I'm so delighted that you are joining us for this. Let me just give those in the conference a little background on CDW, who we are and what we do. CDW is a leading technology solutions and services provider to more than 250,000 businesses, government, education, and healthcare customers in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. And we provide the full spectrum of technology products. So over 100,000 products and services from over 1,000 brands. So think of it this way: we design, build, deploy, and manage the full spectrum to help our customers thrive in an incredibly dynamic environment. An easy way to think about it is if you think of the devices that you touch, the software that runs those devices, the cloud that hosts them, and the applications, the architecture that optimizes and drives the power behind everything in an organization, the automation that speeds all of that, and the monitoring and managing that keeps it running. That's what we do. And today, in a world where technology is playing a pivotal role in supporting and reshaping how we work and how we live, it's an incredibly exciting time to be in this industry and have the privilege to support our customer technology needs. As we think about many of the changes that are happening today, such as remote work and growth in digital commerce channels and business continuity redundancy, these will persist and continue to scale and mature. And we'll see an acceleration in the development of online platforms that will change the way we create and consume services. And most every industry will be impacted, including healthcare, education, financial services, retail, entertainment, and sports. And the thing is, while technology is fueling our future, it's very complex to orchestrate, and that's where CDW comes in. We simplify the complexity for our customers to optimize their return on their technology investment. What we do simply is harness the promise and power of technology to ignite the world to excellence. So for those of you who aren't familiar with CDW, that's okay. If you've gone to a sporting event and enjoyed Wi-Fi from your seat, or you've had peace of mind while you're securely checking out at a store, you competed in a gaming league, you've attended a virtual patient visit with a doctor, or supported a child who's engaged in remote learning, you can bet CDW was behind it. Broad company, changing the world. It's great to be with you today.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It is for sure an honor to be in the tech industry, especially now, as you alluded to. And quite candidly, as a professional, in supplier diversity, I'm overwhelmed with appreciation that you chose supplier diversity as a focus for our time together today. And so with the many issues of consequence, in our world today, I wanted to ask you, Chris, why did you think that this is something important to talk about?
Kristen, thanks for the question. And, Bill raised this as a topic, and I was delighted he had, and there are 4 reasons. Number one, I think supplier diversity is the right thing to do. And at CDW, we're starting to call this business diversity, not just supplier diversity, because it's really business partnerships. 40% of the businesses that go through our supplier diversity channel are services business. So thinking about it in a broader context has become important for us as we think about the future, but it's the right thing to do, number one. Number two, It creates economic opportunity and impact in our communities at scale. It enhances the inclusive economic growth, and that's very important in today's world. Number three, it undeniably generates business value for CDW and all of our stakeholders. And number four, it helps us to build, attract, and retain talent, which is getting more and more difficult in today's environment. And if I just pause, Kristen, for a minute, and I'll go through those and give you a little more of what I'm thinking, it's the right thing to do. When we think about the turmoil caused by the COVID-19 crisis and the subsequent focus on the racial injustice and systemic racism, which has heightened expectations that large companies must serve a broader set of stakeholders, that is central to how organizations are thinking. And if we think back to the Business Roundtable statement on purpose of corporation and stakeholder capitalism, the notion that America deserves an economy that allows each person to succeed through hard work and creativity and to lead a life of meaning and dignity, that the free market system is the best means of generating good jobs, a strong and sustainable economy, innovation, a healthy environment, and economic opportunity for all. That we, businesses, play a vital role in the economy by creating jobs, fostering innovation, and providing essential goods and services. There was an article recently in the Wall Street Journal that questioned whether stakeholder capitalism seems mostly for show. My view is it does not. Our mission at CDW has always been to help our customers navigate and be successful in a changing world. And today, as I said, that mission feels more relevant and pressing as the technology that we provide has become essential to the fundamental operations of every sector that we support. And our philosophy has and will always be that each stakeholder is essential. And we commit to deliver value to all of them for the future success of our company, including our customers, our coworkers, all of our partners, our shareholders, and the communities in which we work and live. So technology is thriving. And what that means is we at CDW and others have an opportunity to use our position, our scale, and our reach to help generate good jobs, a strong and sustainable economy, innovation, and a healthy environment and economic opportunity for all. So it's the right thing to do. Secondly, on the creation of economic opportunity and enhancing inclusive economic growth, obviously what we do fosters jobs and economic activity in underrepresented and underserved segments of the community. And the practices provide opportunities for diverse businesses. And that in turn provides greater representation, employment, and economic advantage for minority women, veterans, LGBTQ communities, disabled communities. And the economic impact of spending with a supplier is greater than the direct purchases because of the economic ripple effect. Production, jobs, wages. It creates an economic impact multiplier effect. If I just look at CDW, we started supporting a supplier diversity approach in 2003. The US federal government has long stipulated and encouraged government contractors to include small and minority-owned businesses in their supply chains. Many state and governments and corporations now in education customers set and track their own supplier diversity goals. So we started in 2003 and formalized our program in 2007 in order to meet the needs of our customers who were seeking to meet procurement goals with small and diverse businesses. That program has grown from about $350 million in diverse spend in 2007 to over $2 billion last year. Over $2 billion last year. And the economic impact of that program led to $3.7 billion in economic value, 22,200 jobs supported, and 1.3 million in wages earned. The multiplier effect is real. The business value to CDW is also real. Our customers trust us to provide sound advice and technology expertise because of our wide range of solution offerings and the broad portfolio that we have. Each year we focus on adding diverse partners because this greater breadth creates a greater range of options, diverse thinking, creativity, and innovation. and agility that CDW can offer our customers. So more partners creates an environment of competition as well, a deeper pool of options and exceptional solutions. The ROI is clear. The return on our investment is clear, and Kristen will talk a bit about that. Building, attracting, and retaining talent. It's a very interesting one. Research shows that companies that have more diverse workplaces outperform and out-innovate those that don't. We all know that. I don't think there's any debate in that anymore. Having a diverse supplier chain, a business diversity program, exposes our organization to talent that sits within that ecosystem. Talent that is more likely to promote CDW and other talent into our system. And remember, millennials and Gen Z are the most diverse generation in history, also two of the largest. And diversity is important from a value perspective for these generations. And programs like business diversity, supplier diversity are important when they make decisions about with whom they want to work, where they want to work, and what they want to do. So there are 4 really critical reasons that we believe business diversity, supplier diversity is a key focal area for organizations and should be today. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen, who does a phenomenal job leading our organization and our business diversity. Kristen, I'll let you go.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you for really telling the multiplier effect. I think if we continue to ground ourselves in that, there is opportunity for all and business for all. You know, you talked about engaged coworkers and coworkers having passion. So I thought I would share a little bit about how this kind of came to be, you know, to have the opportunity to lead business diversity, supplier diversity at CDW. You know, I've been part of the CDW team for just 3 years. And prior to that, I worked in another 500 organization in a sales role. And I was attached to a sales goal for years. And I loved it. I could count on my thumbs how many times I missed my sales goal. I was fiercely competitive. And I really loved chasing what we called EBITDA. And I loved it so much that I really wanted my license plate to say EBITDA. And would you believe, though, that there are 17 other people who live where we live, Kristin, Illinois, that want the same? So I'm on the wait list still today, on the wait list. And then something really changed for me. 10 years ago, my daughter, Caitlin, made me a mom. And what was unexpected is that Caitlin was born with Down syndrome. She was diagnosed at birth, and it was the most single unexpected moment of my life to be whispered by a nurse in my ear that you have a baby girl and she has Down syndrome. And there I was at 28 as a new mom. And even though Down Syndrome Awareness Month kicks off tomorrow, I won't get into all of maybe the details of what the next kind of months or days looked like for us to embrace our new journey. But what became very clear, crystal clear, Chris, is that I was now forever part of the disability community. And slowly, my obsession with EBITDA minimized. You know, where I shopped, or I dined, or watched TV, or looked at a magazine, I did not see the disability community. I couldn't find the Down syndrome community thriving or working in a really robust way. And so I made the decision that, you know, there's 2 ways to live life. You can either be present or you can participate. And I will participate in the change that I want to see. And thus I began a career in impactful sourcing, supplier diversity, business diversity. And this was really the best of both worlds for me, you see, because I could still attach to that sales organization, sales goals, while still advocating for underutilized organization, underrepresented communities in a meaningful way. Supplier diversity and business diversity, they are revenue enablers. Like you said, they are solutions. They are business critical, and they are not easy, but it is necessary. And so, Chris, I want you and I and those that are watching to maybe pause in our minds and think about if you could applaud someone who has ever stepped out on belief, on their faith, or on their will to just invest in themselves. You know, small and diverse suppliers, they do that daily. So instead of just thinking about having that silent applause, I want us to pause and reflect. To those that are watching, if you have ever been a small business owner yourself, worked in a small business, shopped in a small business, or supported your local business. And I would really have to assume that if we were all together right now, having this conversation with us all clapping, thinking of those small business owners and those shops, that we would really move the room from a whisper to a roar with the applause. Those that take that leap of faith to open a small business, to open a business in an underserved community, those are the ones that know that if you follow your passion, it will never let you down. There is a real-time demand in our country and beyond for equality. And Chris, you said it, equality in the workplace, in the workforce, and in the supply chain. And I think it's fair to say that the temperature in our country has never been hotter as it relates to economic equality and economic impact. So at CDW, we are working for a solution to create that desired equality in the supply chain. And it's through this program. Chris, you proudly said it, CDW has been investing in and supporting in supplier diversity for well over a decade. We didn't just start because we can feel that heat. We do have a mature, tenured, award-winning, successful program in it. And as you said, in 2019 spent over $2 billion directly with small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned suppliers. And I often get asked, so $2 billion, that's a big number. What is that? What does it mean? And what did it do? So I'd like to spend a little bit of time walking through that. You know, when CDW competes for business, and our customers have a diverse spend goal, sometimes it looks like a requirement or even an aspiration, we can create that solution for them and meet them where they are. We can do that because of the 1,100 diverse suppliers you mentioned that are in our already safe, secure, intelligent supply chain. Those diverse suppliers, small businesses in the chain have embedded and onboarded and are ready to go to market. And those solutions are what we call win-win-win engagements. A win for our customers always, that we can create the solution for them while still meeting their diverse spend goals or aspirations. A win for the diverse and small business owner or company that gets to work with CDW sales teams because we train along the way, we support along the way, help with access to capital, and advocate for them to scale through all the parts of our business. And then finally, a win for CDW that we have the privilege to create that solution. The diverse suppliers and small businesses that are thriving in our supply chain today, we both know they're not there because of a social experiment, because we want to sprinkle some kindness, and they are never there for a tryout. They are in our safe, secure supply chain. Simply put, because without them, our supply chain would be incomplete. So onto my role in the organization. I'm the architect of CDW's diverse supply chain. And my team and I, we get the opportunity to meet these diverse suppliers, companies, small business owners around the country. And we hear stories of how doing business with CDW has helped them grow their business, whether it's through headcount, whether it's opening a second, third location, opportunities to invest, to reinvest in their offering and expand. And it is in each one of those engagements that there is a belief, as you said, there is enough business for all. So I wanted to talk about that $2 billion in direct spend and what does it do exactly? And Chris, we had this conversation. It's a lot more than winning RFP opportunities, deal reg. That money, it actually creates jobs. The 22,000 that you talked about, those are meaningful jobs. We track job creation in our business diversity program through an economic impact study and with partnership of Department of Labor. And while we're proud of that, we didn't do that alone. We did that with our customers, with our partners, and probably so many that are watching today. But we have to keep creating jobs. It's a must. You know, something else that we all did just in August is when the country kind of became faced with the news that our students might not be returning to their school buildings and would have to e-learn remotely. We all joined to get devices to thousands of students that maybe didn't have access to a device. We joined efforts to try to get access to the internet to students that don't have that every day. We worked in underserved communities and the most rural communities to ensure our students could connect, get online, and meet their teacher. Now, pre-COVID, we worked together last August too, and probably the August before that. We all participate in some kind of school supply drive. And Chris, whether it's in our headquarters in Lincolnshire, where those bins are, or locations around the country, and our partner locations, or maybe in a retail that you have shopped and seen a buy one, give one opportunity for a school supply. School supply drives are set up because there has been, perhaps a group of identified students that without that drive might have to go to school without supplies. There are teams still working today to get students access to the internet, to log on, so they can meet their teacher and go to school. There are students waiting for devices, that efforts are being made so we can get them what they need. And that's essential work, and it's important work. But what is more important, undeniably better, is if we could put those students, moms and dads, back to work. We have to all understand the value of a job, what having one means to me, to you, anyone joining today. It is with the job that a majority of us have access to healthcare. And having a well-paying job is how most of us can provide higher education for our kids. We can't underestimate this. 2 out of 3 people work for firms with fewer than 500 per the Department of Labor. So connect the dots. We have to pay attention to the small business ecosystem. Income disparity, housing disparity, healthcare disparity, it occurs by employment gaps. And business diversity is absolutely focused on job creation. I sometimes lean into a report published by EY that said the state and federal get their highest % of revenue from payroll-related taxes. So we know the government itself is dependent on putting people to work. Thus, we have those set-asides, either carve-outs and requirements that we talked about earlier, and that makes sense. But those requirements, they are not in every sector. In underserved communities, fewer people get to participate in higher education. In underserved communities where there are a lack of jobs and lack of investment in small businesses and entrepreneurs, we can work together to serve them by including them in our work. So again, if we connect those dots further, we think about that open rec that we talked about, that you talked about, Chris, in our organization that we've been trying to fill with diverse talent and haven't. So now supplier diversity can become an incubator for talent. So more individuals in those communities have access to higher education now. So sometimes when I talk about this and someone will say, give me quick, what can I do to help? I'll say, listen, the best way to care about my kids and your kids is to make sure we have jobs. And we have to continue to pay that forward in a meaningful way through inclusion and a commitment to equality. Now I say that with an asterisk because business diversity, supplier diversity discipline should not ever be confused as charity though. We've said it a few times together, Chris, that it creates real-time revenue, creates capital, and it creates business opportunities and where economies can then be lifted. There's a great quote by Martin Luther King Jr. It says, philanthropy is commendable, but it must not cause the philanthropist to overlook the circumstance of economic injustice that makes philanthropy necessary. What is also necessary is accountability. One of the most prestigious procurement organizations holding companies accountable is called the $1 Billion Roundtable, referred to as the BDR, established over 20 years ago in 2000. And today, 28 global companies have been inducted. And CDW is a proud member. An organization can really only be inducted once in its lifetime. And now that seems like not a lot of companies spending $1 billion with minority and women-owned companies annually. Chris, I often have to wonder and imagine, what if half of the Fortune 100 were committing to that spend? I do think there's too much on the line to wait 1 more year or 20 more years. I think if we take it back further, the first office, Chris, anchoring to what you said, the first office of Minority Business Enterprise was established in 1969 by an executive order from the White House. At the federal level, it was recognized the value and impact for minority business on our nation's economy. 50 years later to today, we're seeing executive orders at the mayor level for all agencies to have diversity offices. There is an extensive timeline on business diversity, on supplier diversity side, but the gap can feel greater than ever right now. We have history in supplier diversity practices, but there's so much work to do, and I feel it every day. It's not something to be intimidated, though. There's that great quote that says, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." So I think, Chris, I started sharing all this, when you positioned a question on passion and coworker engagement in our program. And if I could just take a second and give respect to the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and setting aside any political affiliation, as the first woman to lie in state in the US Capitol. What she proved and showed us was what one person can do with their voice and their passion. Justice Ginsburg didn't have generational wealth or legacy on her side. She accomplished things by having courageous conversations. And I'm really proud and appreciative of you, Chris, for having this topic today. And I have really authentic gratitude to the World Affairs Council of Americas for having these conversations all week. There is limitless potential with the impact for the weeks and months ahead. I'm sure of it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Kristen. Hi, Bill. I see you joining us maybe for some questions. But first, Kristen, I would like to say thank you. Kristen's passion and her deep understanding of the power and the value of our business diversity approach is really what makes us successful. Her commitment, the way that she thinks about accountability. One of her goals, for example, a measure, is growth in jobs in every single state in the United States, 5% per year. And notwithstanding the current crises, multiple crises that we're in the middle of right now, she still holds that as a goal, 5% jobs growth in each state, and is on track to achieve that. That is a phenomenal statement on her commitment to CDW, but to the broader communities at large. So Kristen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
I'd like to thank both of you as we enter the question and answer period of this incredible session. And, the personal story, Kristen, the business story that both you and Chris have presented, and the community story are so moving, and you don't expect that in a corporate conversation. And I'm grateful for that as a former journalist who would strive to be able to bring to life the challenges and the realities that you're experiencing. I'd like to open with a couple of questions. One, staying with maybe the more broader view of what's happening in our country, and then also drilling down into specific aspects of supplier diversity. And so I'm glad you mentioned, both of you, about the job creation possibility and why that's important. You mentioned Ernst & Young, but another study I saw about a week ago from McKinsey, which surveyed 800 executives on the future of the workplace and what's likely the talent questions that arise from it are. One of the things that was noted by a majority of executives is that the people from the lowest income threshold in this country are likely to be most adversely and disproportionately affected by COVID and the consequential economic fallout, and that the strains on inclusive growth and the chance for rising inequality are even greater. Just as vulnerable communities of color suffered from COVID itself, the small business ecosystem that they're a great part of is likely to be threatened. How does a company like CDW address that with businesses closing? How can you play a role in that?
Yeah, Bill, I'll start. It's a great question and something that we grapple with almost daily. And I'll give you a very practical way that we think about this. CDW is a sales organization with great technical expertise. And so one of our core competencies is training. That's what we do. We train sales folks, we train technical folks. And so we think about it in terms of extending the training programs and other educational programs into the communities through our business diversity, through our recruiting, through our just training programs that might go through philanthropic organizations like Junior Achievement, for example, to ensure that the skills that are needed in our environment, the technology skills that don't need to be certified 501, but starting with basic technology services skills, technician skills, et cetera, and also business skills, we have an engine that we are now using to do just that.
Kristen, thank you for that, Chris. Could you bring that down to a really specific example? Like I'm trying to understand, does your company mostly recruit these businesses, or do they know your brand and say, gosh, that's the program for me, that's where I'm going to succeed? Or to what extent is it both? And can you walk us through maybe a case study?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Chris. So, I would say for our business diversity program, there's a few ways that we have the opportunity to meet our diverse suppliers. And some of the majority of the way our customers are introducing us to them, saying, we're familiar with this organization, we've done business with them. Is there a way for you guys to work together, right, and collaborate and not compete for business? And that is where I mentioned, right, our program isn't about a tryout. We welcome those opportunities to get to know more suppliers in the diverse supply chains of our customers, because we can serve together. So that's one way that we have an introduction. The other is that of what you said, that suppliers will seek us out, will meet us at conferences or find ways to connect, to show their offering. And we have teams all across CDW that take the time to introduce lunch and learns, webinars, so that we can understand capabilities. So we can have the most brand offering to our customers. And so a specific example, I would share a minority-owned supplier here in Chicago. So I'll keep it local to Chris and I. They have been in our supply chain for, 8 years now. And it's a staffing company, and they work in our distribution centers and as well as in our IT departments in our headquarters. And they first started, I should back it up. They first started in our distribution centers on the front line, helping us staff and keep pace. And then as their offering grew, right, we wanted to stay in touch with that supplier. They began to fill in more job opportunities, more job recs into our corporate buildings. So I would say that supplier is one that has really kind of grown with us, scaled with us here in Chicago, has been able to open multiple locations. And I would say, the most thing we have to anchor on is to have empathy and to really stay grounded in that of how can we best serve each other and what are our mutual goals. And I think that relationship is one that stands out of them continuing to want to serve us.
Excellent. Chris, you mentioned at almost the outset that this is simply the right thing to do. And it's a part, here we are in the 50th anniversary of Milton Friedman's famous essay on shareholder capitalism, and you talked very eloquently about the authenticity of stakeholder capitalism. When it comes to supplier or business diversity programs like the one you have, since you are also Chief Revenue Officer, how much of this plays into overall revenue for the company?
Oh, a significant portion. It's the numbers. Kristen, I don't know if we provide the exact numbers. Do you have the exact numbers for the revenue? Not the 2 billion. We're at 2.6 billion actually through the supply chain. but it is significant. And again, the numbers that of organizations that surpass that $1 billion mark, Bill, I would tell you, it's unfortunate. It should be bigger given the size of the Fortune 200 companies, for example. And just to underscore approaches under the guise of the right thing to do, when we think about the footprint of a CDW, the knowledge base, the programmatic way that we go at this, right down to helping small business, for example, apply for the PPP. I mean, we did do that. If you think about states or cities helping to facilitate organizations get together to create a common pool of knowledge, a bigger footprint across business diversity, that's another step that can create great power in helping underrepresented communities, driving inclusive economic growth. And so I hope, and I think Chicago is going to be moving that way. I hope other locales continue to move that way.
It must be an incredibly rich data that you have on this experience. Is that something, along with best practices, perhaps, that's shared at conferences that's public or?
Yes, Kristen, why don't you take that one?
Right. Yes, thank you. It is public. We do have an annual Supplier Diversity, Business Diversity report for public viewing that we can share. Of course, our website landing page for Business Diversity, Supplier Diversity, is filled with all of that collateral. We do have the opportunity to present and attend national organizations and global events where CDW is able to teach, train, perhaps be a keynote, so that we are continuing to model the way.
Mm-hmm. We're going a little bit over. I'm going to respect your time, but I am so fascinated by this topic, and I feel like I'm learning an incredible amount from you both. It almost feels like we shouldn't even be in the 21st century having conversations about diversity, but we are. And part of the diversity, I wonder, how much of the diversity comes from your international operations? Are there the same sort of programs there? And are there lessons to be learned from corporations in other companies, other countries that Americans can benefit from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think to answer directly, we have to be relentless learners. So there's always opportunity to learn. I'm learning, every day. But also to answer specifically, our program at CDW does serve the UK and our business in Canada. So while sometimes the requirements or the programs might look a little different, if we anchor on to being inclusive and including them in the work that we're doing, that's really the heart of it all. So it is a global program. There are global lessons out there that we can learn from each other, actually, mutually.
To move more broadly as we close the program, Chris, I'd like to, and Kristen, I want to thank you again for the profoundly moving story, and I hope that your family and your daughter are doing fabulously in this really weird and challenging time. And thank you for mentioning RBG, a personal hero of mine too. Chris, tell us about the big challenges for the post-pandemic CDW as you see them. What do you hope to achieve? You've taken the company really in new places, and what's next?
Oh, Bill, thanks for the question. I've already talked a lot about technology, and technology really is fueling transformation in the future and how we work and we live. So CDW is very well positioned to help customers across all the segments to take advantage of that technology. So when I look forward to 21 and 22, I'm excited for us to be able to help customers adapt and change and grow and thrive and achieve their missions. What I think we're all going to be focused on as leaders of organizations is what work looks like in the future. We've all pretty much landed, I think, on some sort of hybrid approach, but that does require new ways of leading. It requires new ways of thinking about culture. It opens up talent pools in a whole different way. But I believe that we'll figure technology out, and that will be a driver. What's equally important is the human aspect of how business gets done, how innovation gets done, and what that looks like going forward. So that's a major focus for us at CDW. look, our history has been innovating and evolving and adapting as technology has changed. So I have all the confidence in the world we're going to be in a good place as we come out of this. But most importantly, I'm just hopeful that we get through this quickly and that people maintain their health as best they can.
Indeed. And our next discussion, which is at 4 p.m., will be with Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, where we will focus on technology and innovation and the future of money in banking. Also, Chris, you mentioned essentially the future of work, which will be a topic Friday with Marjorie Krause, the founder of APCO Worldwide, Corinne Repoche, who is the CEO of Adecco Americas, and Ruth Chandler Cook, who founded the company on the West Coast, Hire Her. They will talk about, they will extend the conversation that you so helpfully launched for us this afternoon. I want to thank Kristin Malek, Senior Manager for Supplier Diversity at CDW, and Christine Leahy. Chris, she's the President and CEO of CDW. It's been such a pleasure to have you both, and to your colleagues who presented that fantastic real-time slide. What a great program this has been for us, a real privilege. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill. And I'll just close by saying it is CDW truly believes in doing well by doing good. And I think that's what this topic really at its essence is.
And we at the World Affairs Councils of America couldn't agree more with that slogan, that motto. We live it every day as we try to keep our communities open-minded to the ways of the world, and international business is a big part of that. Thank you so much, ladies, again, for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, on YouTube Live. Thank you, and I hope we'll see you at 4 p.m. with the Bank of America. Take care.